Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Across the Park podcast, and in case you haven't recognised, we are at the Winslow Hotel, world famous, certainly from an Evertonian perspective, right outside of Goodison. If you've unfortunate enough to have never been to Goodison Road, couldn't be in a better location. I'm sitting here with the man of the Winslow, Dave. Thanks for your time.
Gary,
Thank you for welcoming us here today. And
no problem.
Dave's been generous enough on many occasions for us to be here, not least when we had Neville Southall. We were very fortunate, not so long, well, feels like decades ago actually. I was going to say not so long ago. It was before COVID, pre-COVID, wasn't it? Like 2018, 19, yeah. That's what I mean. It feels like a lifetime ago, but then it also feels like yesterday. But look, we're here to talk about the Winslow because it's dead interesting. Me and Millsy have been coming to the Winslow as children with our fathers, going back 30 odd years ago. We've come here as young adults. We continue to come here as Evertonians. A lot of people know about the Winslow, know it's here, know it's been a staple part of Everton's history. Yeah. We're going to come on to that. I just want to talk to you, Dave, as an Evertonian first, because we always start our shows, whether it's with ex-players, coaches, etc., talking about their Everton journey. Talk to me about being a youngster. How did you get into Everton? Who was the influence?
Okay.
Go as early as you want, mate.
Yeah, it's quite a long story, but I'll try and cut it down a little bit. So it goes back to I grew up in Ireland, born and raised there, yeah. So starting to take an interest in football, I was 8, 9 or whatever, and obviously back then, not too different to probably in the UK at that time, there was very little football on TV. Usual match of the day on a Saturday night was the highlight of the week, the FA Cup final. I think you had the European Cup finals, internationals, that kind of thing. So there wasn't a lot of exposure. So I used to read a lot as a kid, a lot of novels, fiction novels. So I used to go to the library quite often and just grab a book and just start reading it. And I picked up a book one day. And for the life of me now, I can't remember what the name of the book was. But it was a novel, a fiction novel, and it was based in Liverpool. And there was a chapter in it. And it was all about Everton, Dixie Dean, Goodison Park, all this type of thing.
It's a fiction novel.
Yeah, fiction. And I tried Googling.
Someone out there. We have a lot of people.
I tried Googling what was the name. I just can't for the life of me. It was something I picked up. It wasn't like that. It was a fantastic book. It was just that chapter sparked my interest in Everton. Right. So that was 76, 77. So I was like 9, and one day, shortly after that, maybe a few months or whatever, my mum was doing a bit of a spring cleaning in the attic. And I was up there with her, and I spotted a big long wave, well, I didn't know it was a long wave radio, but a massive thing like this size, from the war, from the Second World War that her dad had, my grandfather, who was long gone at that point. And on it, there was all these channels, and I saw Radio Merseyside and that, right? And I said, I wonder, would that work, ma'am? She says, no way, that's not going to work. That hasn't been turned on for years. So off I went with it anyway. Went down, plugged it in, nothing happened. Even at that age, I kind of knew how to change a fuse in a plug. So I did.
Wow.
Change the fuse.
And how old are you now? 8?
8, yeah.
Millsy still can't change a fuse in a plug now.
So I got it working, and I was very faintly able to pick up BBC 5 Live, and sometimes you would get Radio Merseyside. It was a really powerful old radio. And like now you probably can't even pick it up on Runcorn, but with that we didn't have a bad season. It was Gordon Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we were in the run to the League Cup final, the League Cup final against Villa. And I think it was that season that just sparked my interest. And I used to have my ear up to the radio. I remember my mum would come in and she'd go, "What are you doing?" I said, "Listen to everything." She says, "I can't hear a thing. You're going mad with that thing." So anyway, that's how it started. And then I was every Sunday without fail down to the newspaper shop to buy the Sunday People. I just keep scrapbooks. So I'd cut out it back then it was fantastic, the sports pages. They seemed a lot bigger than what they are now, maybe because we were kids. And I used to cut out every single game, keep it in a scrapbook, and I had so many scrapbooks for about 9 or 10 years.
Have you still got any of them?
Here's the thing: I immigrated when I was 20. I came back; they were gone.
Oh,
my mum binned a lot, and my grandmother one of them binned a lot.
What's this junk?
Yeah. So for the 70s, we didn't do much, as we know. We were like bridesmaids, weren't we? You know, we had a couple of FA Cup semi-finals, the League Cup final, which we lost. So fast forward, I guess, a little bit then to 1983. And like in my town, like a small town, the west of Ireland, there was no Everton fans. I was like the only gay in the village. You know what I mean? It was. It's
a good time to come out, Dave.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm not coming out, by the way. In a dead hour, no. But I'm a bit older than you lads, but if you remember back in the day, we used to have the old retro football goal thing.
Yeah.
You'd have the team, it'd be Spurs, Leeds, Arsenal, the other crowd. Kids used to use them for school bags.
Yeah.
Could I get an Everton one? Not. Could I thought, right? So because I had no real, nothing, no memorabilia, no shirts or anything like that for Everton, it made things even worse or more difficult. But it was that way for the longest time. I was the only Everton supporter in the town. I think there's about 2 or 3 now, to be fair. But my first actually Everton game then was actually the Milk Cup final at Wembley. That's the first one I went to. Yeah, but that was my experience.
84.
84. Sorry,
yeah,
84, 84 season.
That's your first game.
Yeah.
First ever Everton game was a final.
Going to live. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So I would have been 16 or something like that. Yeah. Remember, yeah, it was because we got to the FA Cup final obviously the same year. So I going to that game. I mean, I think it was my first time traveling. No, I traveled on my own as a Boy Scout. No, it was the first time going away on my own per se. So
how did you get there?
Ferry, bus and ferry. And I used to have travel sickness as a child.
But it was brutal as well. That ferry was probably like.
And I puked the whole way. And on that ferry, I didn't see any other Everton fans. Surrounded by older lads from Dublin or whatever, Liverpool fans singing, and I was just so fucking sick. And they were all in the piss, and I didn't drink. I was that young. I hadn't started drinking yet. Made up for it in later years.
When did you start? Like, when did you ever have the opportunity then from then on to go regularly, or did it ever become a thing, or was it just a want whenever you could afford it, or?
Well, I immigrated very young. I left Ireland when I was 20, so I mean, which was 86. So I came across to London for a little while. Then I went to the States for a good few years. So I hadn't. That was the only game I'd been to at that point, right?
You managed to get yourself some memorabilia and bring it back.
Well, I actually, here's the thing, right? So that League Cup final, or the Milk Cup final, I was able to get a scarf, a hat, bannered a lot, and I remember I had that for years. And then when we played against Watford, I had the house decorated. My mum was throwing me out, man. I have memories of it. Went ballistic at home when we beat Watford, because that was the first silverware, wasn't it, really? Well, since I started supporting them, you know what I mean? But, yeah, so trips to Goodison didn't happen for me till the 90s, because I was in America till the early 90s, and then I went to Germany in 91, 92. And I think it was 3 games I went to in the 90s. I think it was Spurs, Arsenal, and I think West Ham.
There were some grim games in the 90s.
They weren't great, but the thing about it is, I used to come in here.
Did you? Yeah.
That's the mad thing about it, was because obviously, but I knew nothing about it. It was a pub across the road. I look up the Winslow, okay, that'll do. Yeah. And I remember it was always this bar, and I used to kind of stand over there, have 2 or 3 pints, go to the game. Very rarely, I don't think I ever came in after the game. We probably lost. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that sounds like Millsy. That gets smashed before the game. Nowhere to be seen.
I can't remember the results. To be fair, I think we lost 2 and drew 1 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, most people can't remember the results in the early 90s. It was that bad.
Yeah.
Just taking you back briefly, and obviously talking about your early Everton memories. Who was your favourite player? Who was like? Did you play footy when you were younger?
Yeah. I was a goalkeeper. So so my favorite, once we started to get that decent team in the year. But no, I was saying that, I mean, in the 76, 77, when I started supporting them first, we had some great players. I mean, Bob Latchford, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I think in goals, was it Di Davis or Lawson?
It was been Di Davis at first.
Yeah. And obviously with a good back line as well, Mick Lyons, obviously, and Ken McNaught and stuff. So there was and Dave Thomas when he came along on the left. It was a great little team there. We just were very unlucky. Yeah. I think did we have two second place finishes or something like that?
I think second and third. We definitely come second once.
Right, which is forgettable, but now it's a fantastic season, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then I did really developed an affinity for Sheeds because once he got capped by Ireland.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
We
Kicked
were all
off then,
like,
didn't
oh yeah, it was like,
everyone
oh,
starts, oh, you go.
And funny, or not funny, but there's a shop where I live in the west of Ireland. It's quite remote. It's a little town. And then when you go to
where is it? So, like
Kilrush, County Clare,
okay.
so it's on the coast.
Yeah.
So it's right on
lovely,
the Atlantic
lovely.
Ocean. It's very scenic and all that. Great, good little place to grow up. But totally changed now. So the next big town over is Ennis, and that's about 26 miles away. And as you come into Ennis, on the left, and it's still there to this day, there's a garage, right, and it's got a grocery convenience shop in there as well, and it's called Sheedy's, right? And on the off chance, I went in there one day to sell Hurleys to the guy, to whoever was there. I was only like, I think I was 18 or 19. I think Sheedy had just signed. And Hurleys, if you're not familiar with, it's the game we play in Ireland with sticks. So a friend of mine has a factory, and they used to make them there. So me and another guy, we loaded up a little car and we went, and that was our first stop, right? And I went in and I said to the guy behind the counter, I said, first of all, I'm interested, we're selling some Hurleys. And he said, you're selling Hurleys? You don't play hurling in Kilrush. I said, no, but we make them. And I looked at him and I said, are you related to Kevin Sheedy? Because the Sheedy name, he says, and he looked and he pointed up at a picture of Kevin in Ireland.
No way.
Yeah. His uncle. So Kevin's dad is from there, that area.
The first place you went to, Kevin Sheedy.
And because of that, he bought 6 bundles off us. We were gone all day trying to sell them. We didn't sell one.
That's class.
After that, only to that man. And I've been back there. I don't know if he's still with us or not. I think he passed away, but I've been back there a few times. I was going down and shake his hand when I was home.
You talk about that, so many little bits of like fate there, isn't it? Like,
well, this the whole thing. The law of attraction, all the little things that brought me to end up here, which we can discuss as we go along in this conversation. But yeah, definitely, there's lots of little things. But the fact that I was in America for quite a while, I kind of was out of the loop, because it's not like you can zip over for again, because I was a legal alien. I couldn't leave. I was stuck there for the years I was there.
Well, come on, let's move on. We are going to come on to the history of this place, but I'm still fascinated with your story. So you came over to London first.
London, that was only a brief, a year or so, and then I went to went to America from about 86 to 91. Then went back.
Still selling Hurleys?
No, that's where I started working in the pubs.
Okay.
I'd never done bar work before that, so I arrived in New York, and my friend was a bartender there, and bartenders in the 80s in New York, it was a good job.
Gig, I
mean, the tips were massive.
It still is.
The tips were out of this world, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like you could walk in the door. You could not get behind the bar without knowing someone. So basically, I knew him, but I had to
talk your way in.
Well, I had to work my way in. Basically, it started as a cleaner, then as a bar back. I used to work as a waiter, come in the night, clean the place, stock up all the bars.
Glassy.
Wait, all that. Wait for the owner to come in the morning, and then he'd let me go and serve a few customers. So after about 5 or 6 months, my friend said to me, he said, look, he says, we're going to have to get you in. He says, you're doing it long enough. I'm not going to turn up for work tonight. I'm going to get pissed. But they won't know that. I'll fall in that door at 6 p.m. You'll be at the bar, right?
Yeah, ready.
They'll have no choice. It was Halloween night. He said, they'll have no choice but to put you behind the bar. And that's exactly what happened. Class. And that's how I got my break out there.
That's actually how that same thing happened to me in the Black Horse. I was like a glassy from like 15, 16. And I mean, I'm small anyway, but I was a proper baby face. So I was always like, everyone went from glassy to barman, and they maybe done it at 16, 17, but I was so young looking, they were like, Gary, we can't put you in there. And then one of the lads who was like a bit older than me said the same thing. He went, listen, I'm meant to be in on Friday, but can't be arsed. I'm going to be smashed. But you'll be in. Really? They've got to put you in there. Exactly the same thing happened with me. And then all the customers knew me and that. And obviously you fly out the blocks then and you get, and then you're in there, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's funny that. So go on, you were in America you were in New York.
New York, So like I say, those years there, I mean, if I remember correctly, we had we have 2 FA Cup finals in that time in the late 80s against Liverpool. Lineker was playing. What?
It would have been 86, 80, well, it's 85, obviously, but that was Man United. 85, 86 was Liverpool. And then
later on,
2 years in the bounce.
2 years in the bounce, that's right, And obviously, then it was just a case of trying to find a pub to show. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning or something, which a friend of mine, we went and watched them. But I didn't get to see games every week or anything like that. I was completely out of the loop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, America at that time,
and working out there till 4,
you weren't
5,
interested
6
either, were
you? And partying, all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it kind of went off. And
I wish I was on that for 10 years, got off Everton as a break.
You know what I mean? But when I came to Germany then in early 90s, I started to pick up on it again, because then of course we had the internet and all that kind of stuff, and I popped over for 3 or 4 games. Then I think it was one a season or something like that. You know what I mean?
So we'll bring you up to where you come into the Winslow. A little bit of context that people might remember. It was around 2012, 2013. The Winslow actually closed for a period of time.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
and it was mad time. It was like, what's going on here? Like
look, I mean, how it did is I'm still boggled. The fact that a pub across the road from a 40,000 seater stadium actually closed its doors. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I have an idea as to what happened, but I can kind of mention a few things here. Let me think. So 2012 it was, just before Christmas 2012 it closed. And it was closed until we got involved in January of 14, and we opened the 1st of March 14. It was actually, the same. It was actually the anniversary of Dixie Dean. He passed away on the 1st of March 1980. Wow. So that was just the way the fixtures fell. It was West Ham. I think it was the stars are aligned again. His pictures, his sign is outside the door. I don't know, is it 80 years out there, 100 years?
I was going to come on to that, but
And we opened, the fixtures fell. When we were ready to open, that was the game we were ready to open for, and it was West Ham at home on the 1st of March. I remember saying, this is Dixie the day he died. Mad, like.
That is mad.
Right? But I just didn't end up here by chance. Again, all we spoke about earlier on, and I'm big into the law of attraction. So we remember Nuremberg 2007.
I do.
Right? So me living in Germany since the early 90s till 2010, 19 years I was there. So at that time, Everton had a chat room, didn't they? Called the Blue. Was it the Blue?
The Blue Room.
The Blue Room, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you mean like the? Yeah, like a.
It was on evertonfc.com.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's gone now, right?
It's gone. Yeah.
So I was a member of that. I was a member of that, and we chatting to a load of lads, and I got chatting to quite a few people who I've met most of them since I've come here. But I met them on the day in Nuremberg as well. And what happened was, because with getting tickets, we're having a German IP address. I could get as many tickets as I wanted.
Oh, well, that's it.
In the Nuremberg Inn, because the Nuremberg fans were buying. I think we got like 24 tickets for people who I was chatting to. Yeah. And I met them all there at the game and gave them out and stuff and made friends.
There were so many Evertonians in the Nuremberg.
It was mental. But on the way down, I lived in Mönchengladbach, right? So on the way down, it's quite a long train journey. It must be 5 hours from the north right down to the south of Germany. And at Cologne Airport, the train stopped. There's a stop there, and the carriage opened, and I was sitting on my own. I was going on my own. I mean, I had tickets to give to lads.
Did you have any Everton gear on?
Yeah. And I had a cooler full of beer. And I was sipping away, even though it was November. It wasn't a bad day weather-wise. And the door opened, and these 4 lads walked right across my vision and sat right over there in the next cubicle. And they weren't sat down a second, and I looked at them, and they looked at me. How's it going? They were Irish lads.
Yeah, wow.
They had Irish toffees on the shirts, you know. So straight away over, started chatting them, joined their company, shared the beer. That was it. So one of those lads, we had a good couple of, we had a day and a half on the piss down there, to be fair, or something else.
It was a class few days.
But one of the lads, or those 4, Sean, and I've told him this 100 times, and he tells me, you're mad, it's just coincidence. It was him who put me onto the Winslow in 2014. So had I not met him on the train, had he not walked in at that particular moment, our paths wouldn't have crossed.
How would that come about then? So, I mean, obviously he got to know you and you knew what you were into. So when you went to Germany, were you still...
No, I was in Germany at this point.
Yeah, but were you were you still working bars and stuff then?
What happened was, after the Nuremberg game, we exchanged numbers on Facebook. So I stayed in touch with him. Intermittent. It wasn't like every week, oh, how's it going? But nothing like that. And then when I moved back to Ireland in 2010, I took over a pub there, and I had it till 2014. But the first couple of years were good, and then the art started to fall out of it. The economy was poor anyway. So I just got the novelty of the honeymoon period for the first couple of years. So in that time, I'd be chatting to Sean now and again. And come 2013, halfway through it, I was on my arse pretty much for the second time, because I nearly lost the business in Germany as well. It wasn't going well after a long period of time. That's the way it is in pubs. They don't last forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some do well, but
peaks and troughs, and then you need to try and ride them waves.
And when the troughs can be really bad, you know what I mean? So, Sean, I remember saying to him in 2013, oh, geez, I've had enough, you know? And I don't know if I ever mentioned to him, but it was in my head to pack it in, move to Liverpool, get a regular job, doing whatever, try and get a season ticket and go to all the games, and that'd be it.
That's all you wanted.
See what happens.
Yeah.
So the months were passing anyway. I remember I made a few phone calls. Look, there was nothing concrete. And then out of the blue, I hadn't spoken to him in months. He sent me a WhatsApp photograph. It would have been Christmas or New Year's, so 2013. I think it was a Christmas game. I think whatever game we were home over the Christmas period. And he sent me a picture, a WhatsApp picture of here, and scaffolding outside, which was Frank Bird, who's one of the owners. And said Frank Bird Roofing. And he sent me that picture and he said, look, this is right across from Goodison, the Winslow. It's opening up soon. You get on this. He says, you'll make a good job at this if they haven't got someone in place. And I thought, oh, Jesus, really? So I thought about it. You know what? I'll give it a go. So I looked online, did a bit of Googling, went on Facebook, found a Facebook page or two, looked inactive and found one that was newly created. I thought this must be the people because there was 3 or 4 of them online, right? Sent a couple of messages over. And I did have the number for Frank as well from the hoarding. So I called him and we spoke and everything just fell into place. Come over, we'll have a chat. Came over and boom, like that. The rest is history.
That's class.
But the whole thing is, the guy in the train.
Well, that's what I mean. All those chants. They're not chants, you know what I mean?
Whatever it is, it's whatever it meant to be, or the stars aligned, law of attraction, whatever, all the way through my childhood with the connection with the radio and everything.
But it's also, though, basic intuition, though, isn't it? Like, for instance, on that day, you could have kept your head down. You know what I mean? Your eyes wide open. You're looking for opportunities. You know, you're looking to be friendly and meet
that's
people.
My nature anyway.
Exactly.
I'm one from England. You know I mean? Especially you're going to the Everton game, you'd want to be Billy Normates down there. You know
but not that we're here to preach or anything, but it's lost on this latest generation now. I think in terms of just keeping your eyes open, being friendly to people, you know what I mean? Shaking people's hand, looking in their eyes. Yeah. It's like, I worry for them.
The conversation is totally gone, and you're 100% correct in that. The younger generation, they're just programmed now for what's coming.
And it's you know, I'm not being like, you know, our man fucking moaning about it. It's just sad, isn't it?
Very sad.
It's like how much, and again, this is not. I'm not trying to turn this into a big kind of moral compass podcast or whatever. But at the same time, there's no coincidence why people are struggling a lot more with mental illness if they can't talk to people and you can't
power of critical thinking is gone, totally gone. People cannot think for themselves; they have to be taught what to do.
That's it.
And this younger generation, everything's in the palm of their hand, and that is it. And they have no power of creative thinking. It's not even taught at schools, and it's just an indoctrination. You know?
No, like this now. For instance, any of the younger listeners they'd be skipping through it.
Probably,
they want us to title little bits.
Young people listen.
They want us to title bits. When is he going to talk about this? When is he going to talk about that? But look, listen, you know, I'm jealous. I'm just jealous. You're younger than me, but look, that's that.
Who's younger than you?
No, these viewers and listeners are younger than me. I'm not that. I was the other way around, isn't it? I was saying I'm not that disrespectful, but I'm not that presumptuous. Although you told me with the timeline of all you have.
Coming up.
Yeah, I've got 20 years on you still, nearly.
37, yeah.
So yeah.
I wish I could be 37 again.
You'd be opening the Winslow again, probably.
I wouldn't be afraid of them anymore.
We'll stick with that time because it's obviously got no relevance to the pub itself. Talk to us about those first few years and what it was like adjusting to. Because as you alluded to before, you know, how does a pub right outside of Goodison with 40,000 you know, match goers close? It's very different managing a pub here versus a pub on a high street, isn't it?
Yeah, very good question. So here's the thing. So it took me no length to realise you can't open 7 days a week. Tried it. I wasn't far from the word go. I said I'd give it a go. Rather than, you know, for a multitude of reasons, I wasn't first from the word go because I'd been doing that for so long, and it was killing me. 7 days a week, days, nights, mornings, never switch off. But not knowing the area that well, and not maybe haven't done enough research, but just my intuition told me this won't work 7 days a week. Yeah. And retrospectively, looking back, that's the reason. The pub, the Winslow was brewery owned up until 2014, and the tenant after tenant after tenant, a year, 2 years, 18 months. And their mistake was opening 7 days a week.
Well, do you think it was the brewery pushing that, saying, look, this is
the analysis? The thing with a brewery, you have targets.
That's it.
You're under pressure, you know what I mean? And if you tell them you're only opening whatever match days and whatever, they probably, you wouldn't be allowed. I'd second that they turf you out, you know what I mean? But the irony of it is that the fact is, say you have good turnover in a match day, and then the other 13 days or so in between, you're doing nothing. Yeah. And you're doing happy hour or giving drink out, you know, reduced price. You have 2-3 staff on morning, noon, and night. You're not paying out more than you take in. So we knew we were refurbing anyway. So I said, look, just focus on private parties, bookings, and events. Obviously, match days would be our bread and butter. Yeah. But anything else on top, maybe try and cover staff costs with bookings, and that's the way it's worked. That's been the dynamics from the word go, and that's why we're still here.
Obviously, I mean, yeah, the proof's in the pudding, if you like, that it's been a success. But just quite a simple question, but it's an interesting one for me. What impact does the success or lack of or results have on takings? You see that? You see it?
Extreme. Yeah. You could literally set your watch by every match, depending on the time of kickoff. If it's at 3 o'clock, I could tell you
exactly what you're going to do
before what, roughly within a few hundred quid, what would be in the till just before kickoff.
Yeah,
if it's at 5:30, if it's 12:30, I could gauge it, and it's different. No, it's no different every game.
Whereas after
is 100% relative on results, performance and results. You know, if it's a draw, even if we lose and we played really well, it's probably, when we lose and we play like a bag of shite. It's
again that's sad to me, you know. And me and Millsy, we make a joke about this on the podcast. We've got a dead different mentality to go in the game. I'm more of I'll get here an hour or an hour and a half before kick-off, and I'll always stay out after the game by hook or crook, because that's my therapy, having a few drinks after, talking about it, having a laugh. But so many match goers are like, I'm going home and sulking. And there's all the joke, like the Reds across the park always go, Everton wives run for your lives, you know, Everton not beat again. I'm not like that at all. I'll stay out and I'll have a laugh with my mates, and we'll talk it over. And I've forgot about it then when I get home.
Well, the whole thing is, I mean, it's only a game every 2 weeks, right, on average. So you should look at it the way you're talking about. That should be the way it should be. You know,
social,
I mean? As a day out with your mates, and if we get the result, it's an extra bonus.
But if not, I'm going to have a laugh with my mates, and that takes the sting off it.
You have to. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been in many a Winslow party, and they call them a Winslow party because when we win, it's rocking and all that. Yeah. But then I've come in here many a time and had some of the better nights when we just.
It's not all. No, don't get me wrong. It's not all doom and gloom when we lose or don't play well, and we can still have a decent.
But I see it myself, though, is what I'm saying.
It is different when we win. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, massively. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back to you and the Winslow, and obviously the future as well, which is really interesting. But just going back into the past as well. I mean, I want to touch on what was your knowledge of the Winslow, because the story goes that it was here, as long as Goodison, if not before. How much do you know now? Have you?
I know a lot now, but then I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I knew nothing whatsoever, apart from the fact it was right across from Goodison. Did a little bit of research as soon as I got involved, and there's a ton of information.
Well, come on, enlighten us again. So a lot of our listeners would be really keen on.
So Goodison, as we know, was 1892 when they had the issue with holding it, putting the rent up at that place we won't mention across the road, across the park. So there was this opened in 1886. This whole area here, there's 22 streets here, right? And the Winslow were all part of a redevelopment program in the 1880s, right? Yeah. And it was a father and son building company from Wales called William Elias is the father, and the son is William Owen Elias. And if you take the first letter of each of those words,
Winslow.
No. Windsor's a W. Well, the W is for Winslow, correct? The street and the business. I think it had to be called begin with a W because it was just off Winslow Street. It was a choice of one or the other, and that was a stipulation that he made, that all the streets would have the first initial of his and his son's name, and even the word and A&D. They're all there. There's 22 streets, and so at the very end, then this was built. So obviously, all that was there was a field called Muir Green. And then 6 years later came the issues across the park, and there was this I've seen loads of websites with information on this, and the Heritage Society have done a lot of research on this, and there was a consortium got together to help the club to buy the land to build Goodison. It was Hartley's jam, William Hartley. He was one, and there was a guy called Baxter who went on to be on the board at Everton. And there was a couple of doctors from Ireland, believe it or not, and there was a few others which couldn't get mentioned because they sold alcohol. And one was the landlord here.
Wow, really?
John Rice, yeah.
And he was part of the consortium.
He was, but unofficial.
Unofficially,
I think they call it a bone now or a bronze. Well, I think it was like
money laundering.
11 or 1,200 pound. I think the big guns give 200, and a lot of them give 50s, which is not a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think 200 pound back then is like 40 or 50 grand or something. I don't know, I'm not sure, but they use that money then to get a little bit of a leg up and build Goodison Park.
Wow.
Yeah. So then, of course, that's the very beginning. So when the first ball was kicked in 1892, was it Bolton or Burnley we played? Burnley, yeah. Actually, I have a sketch somewhere on my phone of that. And because there was no main stand at the time, it was just the field and little, whatever, they had little terrace things. But it wasn't like a photograph, it was an artist sketch, a charcoal sketch that some guy sat on the bank and did, or the other side where the Bullens is. And you could clear as day see the Winslow in the background with the turrets. And
hanging over this, that's class.
Looking onto the stadium, looking onto the pitch. And so, so it was frequented by fans from word go, right, first ball kicked, and will be right up till the last ball is kicked.
And there've been a number of licensees as well, haven't you, that have had, like, you know, mad stories as well in terms of
there's 2 licensees, ex-players, who ran it, who were licensees here, and their families went on. I think between the 2 of them, James Bortwick was the first. He was player at Everton. He only played like 1 season, I think it was, just before the First World War, whatever, 1913 or 12 or something like that. And he went on he got injured in Europe, and he got shrapnel injury to the head, so he couldn't play when he came back. He had some healing to do, some recuperation, but a few years later he came back and took over this in 1921, I believe. And I think he passed away then after 10 or 12 years here, but his wife and son took it over. It was in the Bortwick family for 25, 30 years, or maybe more, 40 years. Wow. I think right up to the 50s. And in that time, there's a family around the corner. They grew up here, the Robinsons, 7 sons. Neil played for Everton. And his dad, Jim, he was head barman here. And he tried to get in, when the Bortwicks were leaving, he tried to get in and get the licensee. But Greenhow, who captained Everton to a title in 38, 39, before the war, when the war finished, then he'd finished his playing career, so he ended up coming in as licensee. And when we unveiled those plaques in March 2020 to those 2 players outside, and the Robertson family were here and all that, and I wanted to try and find out when was the last time this was used as a hotel? Because even to this day, I get phone calls from foreigners, to book a room, or an email to book a room on the website. You know what I mean? We're coming down for the game, whatever. Book a room for 5, and I have to write back to them. You know, most local people know it. It's not people from outside still don't know. But so I said, I got to nail down when.
Well, we should have clarified that before when I said at the start, the Winslow Hotel would probably be Ian and Zay says, well, I want to stay there.
The only hotel, it's like 40 towers, the only hotel without accommodation.
I'm sure we could do something with some beds, out the season.
But so one of the son or grandson of Bortwick, I think it was grandson actually, who was a kid at the time, now he's in his 80s. He was here and he was telling me that he used to stay upstairs. So I brought him up, and upstairs is a bit ran down, to be fair, but I have an office up there and some storage space. And he said that office, that's where my bedroom used to be.
Wow.
So I said to him, well, okay, fair enough. And Theo Kelly, who spelled as secretary and manager at the club, he had a little bed set upstairs. So he used to stay upstairs, manager of Everton.
That's amazing.
Right? But that was on the first floor. He had a little bed sit there.
It was probably like a little office. It's like his little looking over.
But the accommodation is the 3rd floor. It's like come back in time. The 2nd floor. So the 1st floor, there's an office, there's an old function room. That functioned up until, I think, late 2000, about 2010. Then that stopped. There used to be a bar upstairs, right? That was open to the public on match day. Guy with the bowler hat at the door. That was the £1 club or whatever. But along the corridor then, there's a bedsit area at the end. That's what Theo Kelly used to be. But above that again, on the top floor, if you walk up there now, it's like, I'll bring you up after. It's like, whoa, it's like going back in time.
Yeah.
So I said to him, any members of anyone staying upstairs? He said, no one did. He said, I used to go up there.
No one used to stay?
And this is like I'm thinking 40s or early 50s, late 40s, early 50s. I brought him up and he said, he said, that room there, which was not even a room, it was just like what it is, I guess. But he said, Theo Kelly used to have his budgies in there. He used to keep budgies and used to keep them in there in cages.
That's amazing.
Right? So there was no one staying. So you got to go back pre-Second World War, but the last time it was used as a hotel. So I didn't know all that at the beginning. So the reason we never changed the trading name is because got that name. And the signage is really old, so you don't want me taking it down. You know what I mean?
No. That's it. No, the authenticity is
it's a talking point. You know, when people call you up, can I book a room? You explain to them, and make a connection with people that way as well.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So for you then, Winslow, best time, like what's the best memory of you whilst you've been licensee or whilst you've been?
Well, that's easy. That was not so long ago.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Palace one.
The Bournemouth game. Yeah, it was meant.
Yeah.
For a day that had everything, as in like trepidation, anxiety.
Bournemouth is in the one just gone. I thought you were going to say Palace, the Bournemouth one.
No, the Bournemouth one.
Okay, yeah.
Bournemouth one, yeah. Palace one was good as well, but it got a bit leery towards the end because it was a night game.
It was night as well, yeah.
And the drinking wasn't enough alcohol consumed by closing time. And then there was a bit of issues out down the street and all that. The police came out. So that was a bit stressful, to be fair. But this one had its own stress in different ways. So anxiety, trepidation, and then of course everything. The match started, then anticipation, and everything's going. Obviously, we had a game. We had it on TV here, so we were packed here as well. We never stopped all day. But
loads of people watch it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
No, normally not, because everyone's got a ticket. But for this,
there was a lot of people out there.
Didn't have tickets. We were packed.
Wow,
absolutely jammed during the game. So obviously, then when Leicester scored, we're in the top bottom three. I think at half time, right? So then there's a bit of a somber mood, but
it's only 10 minutes into the second half.
Was it 10 minutes into the second half?
Well, 52nd minute, I think it was.
But I remember, and I know this from sitting upstairs in the office because it was the time delay. I've done it many times. I'd hear a score, and I can get down them stairs very quickly with my long legs. And it's about 20 seconds.
Is it, yeah?
Yeah, it's 15, 20 seconds. So I'm down the stairs. I know because I can hear the crowd, right? And I'm down, and we might only be in our own half or in the middle of the park. And we're going to get one here, lads. We're going to put this in, and then boom. 10, 15 seconds there.
Can you not hear it? Can you not hear it? I guess
not when you're inside.
Yeah, because
you won't hear it when you're inside. With the TV, the music is on. You won't hear it. Out in the street, you will. Or upstairs, you will. So I was stood outside talking to one of the doormen, right? And no one knew it would score. I heard the roar.
Yeah.
So I ran in. I said, and at that point, again, the ball was only around the centre circle.
Yeah.
Went up the wing. Kemp fell to the core. But I'd said, like, when the ball was in the middle of the park, going to get one here in the next few seconds. Wait and see. No one copped it. I said, why don't you know? I just walked in the door. Of course I heard the fucking door. But we got it. But that's when the place just lifted then. And then after that, then obviously when we stayed up. But it's more relief than anything else.
I know, we spoke about this.
Really celebrating the fact that, look, we stayed up. We don't want to be in this position.
No, I've said that exactly. And you know, I was a massive advocate of getting the fans off the pitch. It was like, come on. Like, the last time it happened, as you said, it was so close to the wire, and it was like we were almost dead and buried, as we were, you know, with the Wimbledon game back in the day.
Yeah.
But
Wimbledon, Coventry,
I mean, Coventry was weird,
because that was
being 2-0
down.
Yeah. Coventry was different, but in all those cases, I mean, you know, it's a hard one. Like we get a lot of stick, and I've had a lot of stick recently about talking about those games as being memorable, and I went on record after the Palace game saying, and just bear with me on this because I've had to try and like explain what I mean by this. It's like, it's a different feeling coming back from the brink, and I know the analogy I use is, have you ever been, and I'm not saying I have personally, but you know, I've been close to this. So you have been the brink of not even being able to pay your bills, and that money drops in, and it's like, oh, thank God that's done. Whether it's like, you know, businesses, you've been there. I've been there. I've been there in businesses where like you're thinking, I need this to drop in so I can pay the wages, and you're like, that relief. And it's not a celebratory feeling, but that feeling, I've done it, I've got there. And it's like, it's a different type of buzz that you don't want to feel all the time, but just being there makes you appreciate them when them good times come. And I always say to them, because you'll never know what it feels like to be that close, and therefore now, when success comes to you, it's not the same. It's just like, there's another trophy or whatever.
That's absolutely spot on what you're saying. But those people across the park, and a lot of people, even like the Chelsea fans, what they forget, and City fans more so, they've only had success in the last 10 years. And everything is cyclical, you know what I mean? We had a good run in the 80s, and every decade practically, apart from the 50s, and I think we won a title in the 30s. I think it was the 20s and the 50s. Where we won nothing.
Bad times,
But you know, we were winning stuff when they were in the second division. You know what I mean? Everything's sick. We'll be long gone, and hopefully we'll be long gone, but hopefully we'll get a run of 10 or 20 years again. You know what I mean? Because I mean, we still what number is it? Number 4 in titles, 9 titles.
Fourth, yeah, still fourth, yeah.
We've just been passed out, haven't we? Yeah, we were third,
yeah. Well, look, let's touch on the future.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will be watching this going, and a lot of Evertonians are probably wondering, you know, the stadium's, you know, well on its way. It's a you know, be a landmark moment for the club. A sad moment at that, particularly given the history you just touched on. Then, how are you feeling about that first and foremost before we talk about plans? What was that news like for you?
Well,
I guess
look,
that's the first question.
It's obviously not news as such. I mean, as it's been not.
No, but when it came, when it first, you know, when it was like, listen, this is happening this time.
Yeah. So when it was first announced that they bought the land and stuff, which is 5 years ago now, something like that. Yeah. So obviously, then you know it's going to happen because obviously we had the situation back with Kirby and before I came here, Kingsdock and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But you know this was going to happen. You know what I mean? So I think I did a Twitter one with Capital Radio. They interviewed me, and pretty much what it was my feelings back then, which is about maybe 2 years ago, is that it's for the greater good of the club to move with the times, to increase. This was 2 or 3 years ago. I did this interview. Increase revenue, etc., etc. And you know, whatever happens with us happens. We have looked at properties down there, but it's the refurb costs. Anyone that's got property down there is looking for silly money. Refurb costs are through the roof now compared to what materials and labour and stuff 2 or 3 years ago. So to get an old building down there, because let's face it, they are all in disarray. And to get it up and running and get it to high spec, it's going to cost King's ransom. And you know, the margins on beer aren't huge. So it's like, you know, you've got to weigh up the options. But my sentiment, if I can just go back a little bit, my sentiment is that it was one of these for the club have to do it, and you know, it's not about me, the Winslow and all that. But I did speak to the club about being involved in the fan zone.
Consultation.
I just spoke to Denise about it must be 4 years ago. And really the feedback wasn't very positive, to be fair. Just my idea was, and I spoke to Dan Mize about it as well, when he did the designs and he was like on board and stuff, and he thought it was a great idea. But
from a heritage point of view, recreating
I mean, we're first for a lot of things, right? We're under soil heating. There used to be a banner down there on the gable end on Speller Lane, and it had all the firsts, you know, we're first for so many things, 2-tier stands, four stands, all this kind of thing. And we could have been the first. My plan, my idea in my head was the first to not just take brick by brick of a match day ritual of over 130 years, but you could replicate the concepts. Or not just here. You could any other business that wanted to get involved. Would it be?
It'd be amazing. I was like, I know what you're saying.
The supper bar, the cafe, and all that. Everyone could have constructed some type of little retail area down there in the fan zone, and
it's class.
And each business that was interested could and lease it from the club. But no, it wasn't. Nothing positive came back in here, so to speak. So that was just an idea I had. And it didn't happen. So then I started looking at opportunities down there, which are very, very, very few and far between. And now we're looking at we've been discussing with the council, with other pubs in the area, keep our business in L4. We have an online presence, and we're speaking with bus companies as well. It's early days, but we are getting feedback. So it's all about demand. If the fans demand it, if the fans want to stay and keep their match day ritual, and we're going to organise bus routes, designated bus routes to Bramley Moor and back.
Listen, we've said before, that's something we absolutely want to get behind, and I know we're working with the other podcasts to do exactly the same. I'd love nothing more to continue my match ritual, and I absolutely think there'll be a take up on it. I really do. I think it's going to be listen, I think there'll certainly be a proportion of fans who will, you know, literally just almost vacate and go, right, this is our new way. But as I alluded to you before, my way of going the game, my before the match rituals, my post match rituals, I'm not saying that I don't care about the club, or that's more important to me almost than going the game. The result is almost irrelevant to me. And I would hate that experience to become too corporate, and that's the bit I'm afraid about. I don't think Evertonians are corporate.
That's exactly the
and listen, we will inherit 10, 15,000 fans. I hope to fill that stadium beyond I mean, I think we'd do it to the majority, but I'm not under any illusion that we'd be packing out 55,000 every week just off the current fan base, as in the match-going fan base. So we will inherit the tourists. That's fine. Put them up in the top balconies and keep them away and stuff in the nicest possible way. But I'd really love for us to not sell out completely and to not be that corporate club and maintain the core fan base who go and do what football fans have done for decades. In the pub that they love and the company that they love. Because I just think it'll be so different going to some sports bar, which will be like,
Well, if we look at right now, we're 18 months, maybe even, well, we're not 12 months because they really announced that
the season side of it,
and I personally think that it won't be a mid-season move, that it might.
No,
it's just
can't be.
Logistically, it'll be
no,
a nightmare.
Tickets are not.
You want a pre-season.
Clean, you want a clean.
Good weather, pre-season, do a pre-season there, get a big team in, do a grand opening, and build up to the summer of 25. So between now and then, which is 2 full years, I don't see a lot of infrastructure going in down there in regards
transport,
everything,
more than anything else.
Because that 10th Street project is it's years down the pipe.
It is,
you know what I mean? And the stadium, if you look at it, I've seen the plans for it. The stadium is the first gone in, but it's not really part of that. It's all that's towards town.
Right.
So I feel that there's not going to be much down there, and fans aren't going to be able to afford to go in and drink for 3 or 4 hours in the fan zone. Before, or in town,
in town, because that's it.
For that matter, before they go, and they might want to keep their ritual. You know what I mean? And our prices are competitive, as are the other bars around here, and we'd like to keep it that way.
I mean, as you touched on there, from an infrastructural point of view, you're either coming in on the train from town, you park, in which people who are having a drink are not going to do, or you come from Sandhills, and that run already happens. That run already happens from Sandhills to Goodison.
Right.
We've got such a huge fan base in and around the stadium. I don't see how that won't be taken up, and I'm as I say, we'll be massively behind it. I think it makes sense. It's got to make business sense for the likes of
rather than fall off the edge of a cliff and give up. It'll keep us going for a while. I mean, I think eventually, however long that will be,
generationally,
as it gets developed down there, and people will develop a different routine. But again, it's too early to tell, and we have to try. That's the thing. We have to give it a go and give it a proper go. You know what I mean?
And let's keep us social Evertonians together. We like to talk.
I mean, I could get in my car now and I'd be down in Bramley-Moore in 8 or 9 minutes. And a match day you won't. We know that. We know that. So so it is. There will be teething problems with timing and all that, and getting right. You're probably going to have to leave here 45 minutes before or something like that. You know what I mean?
Give him some chillers on the bus.
It's doable. Everything is doable.
It is. Where there's a will, there's a way, mate. And there's certainly been plenty of will on your behalf, and so much admiration for what you've done with this place.
Thank you.
Bringing it back to life along with Frank, and again, long may this stay, and long may the heritage be maintained.
Yeah, it's been an absolute privilege, and I'm so happy to be doing it. You know what I mean? But I know I can't do it forever either. You know what I mean? So we'll see how the next few years pan out.
But yeah, we'll be back. I'm hoping we're welcome back.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I'll, as I say, I can't wait for the season to get going. I'm starting to get that point now. I needed the break, as is. You must have needed the break, but I needed the break. I'm starting to get the
well, I'm going on a little bit of a break myself coming up soon. But yeah, for next season, of course, obviously we have our work cut out, to be fair. Going forward.
We do. The team absolutely do. It's the signings don't seem forthcoming. I think there's a lot of wheeling and dealing. Daichi's busy in Glastonbury, so, which says it all. Says it all. And it's probably the time you want your managers getting involved in transfers, and he's in selfies with all the fans in Glastonbury.
Well, I mean, we are. I mean, we can't have a discussion without talking about finances, because that's with the FFP restrictions, and any money that's coming in is going down to Bramley-Moore. Obviously, the funding has to be raised somehow. And obviously, I fear that we can even without that, we can only sell Dubai anywhere because of financial fair play. So that's going to be difficult. But I mean, we spend very badly. We probably, recruitment has been dire, and we spend no one has 6 years of it now, consecutive seasons. So that's got to stop, obviously, and well, it has stopped because the money's not there. But there is always, if you look, there's always players out there in the lower. It would have been the Championship or the lesser leagues in Europe, where you can pick them up,
Well, going back to the last time we were in this position where we had a manager that had to wheel and deal, which was David Moyes, back when he took over from Walter Smith. Correct. That was the job, bringing the Cales in and bringing the players in for a couple of million. Even like some Marcus Bent who come and done a job for a season. Yeah. That's the market we're shopping in. But we're looking for players who need to be hungry, want to wear the shirt, want to better the, not prolong the careers, better the careers. And we've been shopping too long with mercenaries, haven't we? Buying in players who go, I'll take me 100 grand a week, 200 grand a week. We've still got a few of them knocking about.
We've been shopping in Harrods window, haven't we?
Yeah, that's it.
The old mannequins just sitting there a long time.
Dusting them off, exactly. But it's look, it's going to be an interesting time. I just really hope we can do some business. I think if we don't, it's going to be
obviously priority is a goal scorer. You know what I mean? I think we're linked with Dembele yet again. He's half decent. You know what I mean? Could do a job probably.
Listen, we need someone to be a target man, but to be a threat, and we haven't had we don't have that without Dominic in the team.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and we probably won't be able to spend any money, like I say, without selling. And we've got only a couple of players we have saleable assets, are probably Pickford and Onana, and you really don't want whatever Onana, you don't want to be selling Pickford,
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but again, my position on it is if we have to sell the goalie to buy a 10-15 million pound goalie and buy a 30-40 million pound forward, I'd do it. I would, and I know I've been on record saying that, so I can't change my stance now. It's not to say I don't rate what he's done, not to say he's a fantastic goalie and he's been an amazing servant for the club, but you've got to look at what you've got, and it's the equivalent of going, I don't know, your pumps behind the bar, I've got this and that, but it was a sacrifice this one Guinness pump to buy 3 lager pumps that I can sell. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit like that, and that's my stance on it. Again, I've been absolutely vilified on Twitter for saying that, but it's nothing against Jordan. It's just I feel that we're probably sitting there with an asset that we don't necessarily get the most out of.
It's one position. I haven't played in goals myself. It's one position. If you look globally for many years now, where you'd be hard pressed to name 10 top goalies who are playing presently, really top class, world class keepers. You struggle.
A lot of teams do play with average keepers. That's the point I'm making.
Well, go back 20 years ago.
They were everywhere.
They were everywhere.
Yeah. Serie A had like 10, 12 world class keepers.
I mean, we list out names all day long, But, I've often heard Roy Keane say this, and people say, oh yeah, he's a great shot stopper. Well, it's like saying a full back can kick the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Midfielder can pass the ball.
That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. It's all about positioning, isn't it? And here, a lot of it's up here as well,
Absolutely.
The rest is a given, you know what I mean? But
and I'll be honest, I'm disappointed, and I know again it's controversial. I'm disappointed we've let Begovic go. I thought we could have got a season out of him.
Decent
season, whilst we're not, we haven't got that money. If we are going to sell, and we have to sell Pickles. We get whatever the 50-60 million is, get it in, invest it in 3-4 outfield players that can get us more goals. And go again next season, but I'm not going to go there again because I've honestly had that much stick on it. I'd rather leave that one behind. But look, Dave, we're going to get you back on. I know this towards the end of the summer when we've done some business and we can have a chat about where we are. If that's all right, if you're up for that, because we've covered so much in this one, and I wanted to really get into the Winslow, your story, which is amazing, mate. And, I've seen you so often, and we've chatted so often, but. It'd be great to have loads of Evertonians and find out the similar stories, wouldn't it? How you became an Evertonian. Did you go with your dad? That's bizarre how you became an Evertonian.
The book and the radio.
That's one of the best. That's one of the best stories I've heard.
Because without that book and without that radio, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, where would you be now? It's mad, isn't it? Where would you be?
Probably supporting Norwich.
God, yeah, that'd be down in Suffolk somewhere or Norfolk. Wow, that'd be a very different existence. But listen, Dave, thanks so much for your time, mate. Honestly, always a pleasure being here. Even more of a pleasure getting into your story and learning more about the Winslow. And we'll catch you in a few weeks at the end of the summer.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.